Where you gonna find the people make the world go round? On a Sunday morning, the activated, dedicated, liberated can be found. On a Sunday morning.
Remix.
Where you gonna find the people make the world go round? On a Sunday morning, the activated, dedicated, liberated can be found. On a Sunday morning, where you go to find what the papers won't be saying. Wake yourself up with a radical cup of solidarity. I'll give you a clue. It's not the Andrew Marr Show. You find it on Zoom. It's not the Andrew Marr Show. It's not all doom and gloom. It's not the Andrew Marr Show. Oh yeah. It's not the Andrew Marr Show.
Welcome to Not the Andrew Marr Show. We are lucky and fortunate to be joined by Mick Lynch down there in, is it South London?
Yes.
And Helen O'Connor's with you. Mick, you've been quite busy the past week, haven't you?
It's been very busy with the railway dispute and all the media. I don't claim to understand it all, but the important thing today is we're down with the GMB at St George's Hospital in Tooting about the subcontracted workers, the outsourced cleaners, and their struggle. So I'm down here today to show some solidarity, returning the solidarity they showed on a great demonstration and spontaneous march up at King's Cross yesterday for our dispute. So it's absolutely essential that the unions link up and synchronise with all these struggles across all the sectors in the public and private sectors. Right. So I'm down here today to express my solidarity. And the unions have really got up their game now. And every single one of us get together against this scourge of outsourcing and subcontracting and the dilution of terms and conditions and pay, which is the super exploitation in our economy now. So that's why I'm here today. And I hope that everyone online and around the movement can support these workers as well as all the other workers in struggle.
Well, most of the show we've got is about the strike and how well you've been doing. You know, how have you been? Were you aware from the start that you just get loads of silly questions, or did you expect that?
Well, you get some fairly silly questions because journalists, unfortunately, these days are fairly uninformed, and there's so many outlets. I think there's a sort of a very thin film of education that's going on with journalists. And there's a lot of journalists that aren't trained in the traditional way of researching the story. There are some very good ones, but they don't seem to understand any of the issues that we're dealing with, even though some of them themselves have the same exploitation. A lot of them are on these gig economy type terms and conditions, but they run from one thing to another, trying to get a fee for what they're doing. That doesn't excuse the likes of Kay Burley and Piers Morgan, if he's a journalist. I don't know what they are, but they just seem completely facile people to me. And when they meet someone who actually knows something about the subject, it seems to give them a lot of problems. I don't know why.
And you sort of talk straight. You don't kind of like try and and ah. You just like, they say a stupid question and you call it out, and everyone's just saying this is incredible. Doesn't that show how bad the media is? That if someone just says that's a ridiculous question, everyone's saying this guy's shocking.
Well, it is a bit, but I mean, that's the way we treat each other. I've grown up in our union movement with branch meetings and regional meetings and shop meetings, as we used to call them. And that's the way we behave with each other. It's not being disrespectful. If you say to your mate or one of your colleagues or one of your comrades in the movement, hey, you're talking nonsense for a minute, it just means you're doing a bit of a reset, doesn't it? It doesn't mean you hate them or whatever, but that's the way we relate to each other, all the workers here. We would have a free and frank conversation about the way a dispute's going or a way we should approach a problem. And that's what we're brought up on in our movement. And that's part of our democracy, isn't it? It's about to tell somebody that you think they're wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean you're rude or obnoxious. I try not to be. I try to keep a fairly even keel, but we've still got to deal with the issues in front of us.
Can I just say something?
Yeah, I'm hogging all the light.
I just want to say something. because we're so grateful to Mick, because he's a man under a lot of pressure. He's here in his own time. He's got family commitments and everything. And he's taken the trouble to come down to Tooting, to our picket line today. And I'm just stunned. I didn't expect that he would be able to do that.
The biggest sacrifice is coming south of the river for me.
We're so grateful to him, and all our members here, we're so grateful to Mick, because it just puts a bit of it, they just really appreciate it. He's a high profile figure, he's under pressure, and yet he's taken the time. And that's what our movement's all about. That's what working class people do for each other. We take the time to support each other,
Absolutely.
And I think we need about 10,000 or 100,000 Mick Lynches.
Well, we need everybody to be a leader, Helen. Every worker in the union, every member and activist, and then we get into the campaigns and struggles as we need to. But it's a mobilisation we're after, not a monument to the past. Mobilised workers is what this is all about, and that's what we're seeing this week. Yesterday, we had massive spontaneous demos all over the country, up in Scotland, in Newcastle, in Norwich, and all sorts of places. The picket lines yesterday they had hundreds of people on them, and none of that was provoked by us. That was workers in other unions and non-union members just coming out and saying, I want to support these people. And we need to see that at Tooting. And I know we've seen it a bit, but if we don't get anywhere with Mighty, this horrible subcontractor, and this NHS trust here, we've got to get down here en masse with all our social media outlets and all the members around the country coming down to support these people, to make it a template for breaking this stranglehold of outsourcing and subcontracting.
I'm blown away that you've come on the show at all, Mick. It's the amount of work you've been doing the past week. It's incredible, and I'm really with so much respect for you. I was hoping you'd come on and everyone could send you messages of solidarity, because it can't be that easy when you're facing all these the constant lies. I mean, that's the worst bit, isn't it? I mean, I watched you on Question Time, the number of lies they were coming out with.
I'll tell you what makes it easy when you got your members behind you, because in that ballot, we had 9-1 in favour, 89.5% in favour of this strike, and 71% turnout. And I was saying to Helen, this legislation they put in about thresholds has got an ironic side effect, because you've got to get over the threshold so easily, and you can't just send the ballot paper on its own. You actually have to get back in contact with your people, get into the workplace, get back to the branch meetings, offices, and it's caused a mobilisation. It's an ironic thing that the Tories put this in as a hurdle, and it is a hurdle, no doubt about that. It's designed to do us in. But the way you deal with it is by getting new techniques. So we've done this through texting, where members are getting lists, and you're able to contact thousands and thousands of people. Virtually everyone in this dispute, 42,000, and the other 10,000 on London Underground, was in contact with another member of the union. And that's caused a mass mobilisation. I think it's an unintended consequence of the legislation. So I think we've all got to learn that. And what unions have got to do is teach each other about things that are successful and things that have not worked. There's no harm in trying something and it doesn't work, but you've got to learn and keep moving on in cooperation. And we've got to have less rivalry in the union movement and less jealousy and more solid work together, because we're one movement. Doesn't matter about the brand and the logo on the placard. We're here together, and that's why I'm out today, and I'm very glad to be here, because the spirit is fantastic.
And can I just say, I know from our experience in just this one hospital how difficult it is to pull off that ballot result. So for the RMT to be able to do that on a national scale, that takes some level of organisation. And it takes commitment and dedication from members to pull up, and that's not easy to achieve. So what the RMT have achieved with this ballot is really, really impressive. And we want this in the GMB union. We want the spirit of the RMT and your ability to organise in our union in GMB. So we're learning from each other, and Nick, it's outstanding. And you being here today, words can't even express how grateful we all are.
It's not about me. I'll tell you what the other difficulty is. We've got to get a deal at some stage. It's all right having a great profile, but if you don't ride that profile across the finishing line and getting a deal for your people, it's been a bit of a wasted effort. So what I'm seeing, though, is that people are getting stronger and people are getting confident. There's all sorts of people joining the unions. In the last week, Google searches of how do I join a union have gone up 500%. Wow. That's great. And then we've got to get those people organised. It's no good just being a single entity member. You've got to be part of an organisation, starting on the shop floor and then moving forward into all the other structures of the union. And of course, we need a new wave of activists, and they're not all young. Some of these people could be in their 40s and not being in the union. there's too many people who look like me. I know that's a fortunate thing for many of you, that people looking like me, but there's too many people with my profile, old white geezers. You know, my job in my period of life is transition it to all the wonderful people we have here from all over the world and all sorts of backgrounds and cultural diversities. We've got to make sure that there's a new generation that can carry this forward into the middle of the century so that the trade union movement doesn't become an irrelevance in our society. It's got to be the heartbeat of our democracy. If we want a free democracy, we've got to have free and active trade unions relevant to the people.
And Mick was making a very important point to me earlier when I was speaking to him, just about, particularly in the NHS, this happens, how reps get pulled in by management into their committees and things. It's very, very difficult then for those reps to engage their members on the shop floor. So that's something that we both really agree on. We have to engage the members on the shop floor and we have to get the members active. And I think it's in disputes like your one, like our one, the leaders emerge, you know, people like Abdi here behind me and Francis and John and Abdi Fatah, all these people are going to be the reps for our branch now. And, you know, they're going to be leaders and they're going to become the new Mick Lynches.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, like, you know, I've got to move on, but I want to say we never thought that we would produce such hope. There's so much hope now that people are getting together and fighting. And you've kind of been at the head of it, Mick. And thank you for all you're doing and keep strong. We're all behind you. There's a lot of people clapping on the Zoom. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, okay, good. Well, make sure let's turn that into action to support these workers down here in Tooting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mick.